What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. Just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer is very soon at the end of March. Anyways, guys, I want to make one more announcement. So tomorrow I'm going to be attending a funeral, which means that I will most likely not be available to upload an afternoon video. So if you don't see me, guys, that's going to be the reason why. I'll see if I have time to record a morning video. Most likely I should be able to do that, but the afternoon video is something I will not be able to do most likely. So with that being said, I thank you all so much for your condolences, for all the kind messages you are sending me. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, I'm going to be now focusing on the charts and our news. So as far as the market's going, it's very resilient. It's continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, continuing to hold up very, very nicely. But I do want to mention that as this market's holding up, we do see some of these like tech stocks that are showing some signs of that they may decline a little bit. And this could cause a small dip in the markets, especially if you look at like Nvidia and others out there. So I'll talk more about what's going to likely happen in the next couple of minutes. Let's first focus on some news and data, and I'll talk about the charts. So there's good news involving the Cybertruck. It's getting some very, very good safety ratings. It got a 5-star rating, at least for the driver's side. It's been getting good ratings amidst the fact that there's lots of tests going on with lots of different types of accidents. It got a 4-star rating, at least for its the passenger side. And then for the driver's side, it got a 5-star rating, which is very, very good. And I went over this in more detail in my previous video. So if you guys want to see that, you guys can check that out. But for now, I just want to say this is a good piece of news. Besides this, we also got the FOMC minutes today, and the Fed made some important announcements. So the Fed is being very, very cautious right now when it comes to cutting rates even more. For now, the Fed is doing this because of what we're seeing, at least in terms of inflationary data. There are some Fed officials who are saying that Trump's tariffs may cause another surge in prices, and this makes things more complicated for the Fed. They're saying this because they believe that they have to be very careful when it comes to cuts, and that they have to wait and see what the data tells us. They did also talk about the risks of inflation going up and why they have to be very, very patient with this. So for the time being, it's very unlikely now. It's looking unlikely we're going to get another cut during the next FOMC meeting. But later on, if we do see more inflationary progress, then that is what could lead to more cuts. Despite the warnings from the Fed, despite what they were saying during the FOMC minutes, that's not necessarily enough to get the market to tank. The market still held up very nicely, showing lots of signs of resilience. Now, for tomorrow, it's going to be Thursday. Just keep in mind that we have initial jobless claims in the morning, and then we have the Philly Fed announcing new orders, prices paid, and then other pieces of data. So it's all minor data. So there's nothing too significant coming out for tomorrow, but wait and see what happens with the initial jobless claims before market open. Then keep in mind that today we just got Carvana announcing earnings. Etsy also announced earnings. They did not as great because they missed on revenue. But tomorrow we have Alibaba, Walmart, and then Rivian announcing earnings. So just keep that in mind. As far as Carvana goes, the share price did go down despite the fact that they had good earnings. So they saw about a $3.5 billion quarterly revenue report. That's above expectations of $3.3 billion. And then their EPS was at about 56 cents per share, above the 32 cents expectation. And then besides that, everything else has been quite good. They're also expecting significant growth, at least moving forward for 2025. So decent guidance overall. But overall, their numbers were not really enough to impress investors because of what we're seeing from the starting point. We actually saw a bit of a decline in the share price. So that's what happened so far. Decent earnings. Guidance was pretty good, but it wasn't really enough to get investors to be wowed. And that's why the share price is down. So that being said, what do I see for Tesla? So we have a very, very nice inverse head and shoulders like setup. If we break 362, we're going to be looking for an attempt to push up for the 370s. If we lose 348, we're looking for a dip back down. The inverse head and shoulders is present, and there is some upside potential if we break resistance. So I think that we're doing a good job so far. And we'll have to see if we can try to break out from here. Now, for the short term, I think that Tesla's in a range right here. So watch your levels just to be safe, but I think there might be a little dip to about 355 and a bounce. I think there's going to be an attempt by Tesla to try to break out for that like 370 target very soon, maybe by Friday. For the short term, I do think we're going to be basically shuffling around the 363 area, just like how we did today. Look for a small decline, then maybe a bounce and some consolidation up here. So I think that's the most likely possibility. So please keep that in mind. That's going to be very, very probable. As far as SPY goes, we're also looking more bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. That's a good sign as we're continuing to break out. But just know that if 610 fails us and 608 fails us, then we could be dipping lower. If we end up breaking past and holding above the all-time high, I think 615 is a nice target. I do want to mention that Nvidia and Meta are looking a bit weaker, and this could slow things down to some extent. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a push and then a small slowdown, a retest of like 610 to 608. Then we'll see if we bounce from there to continue like this. But I want to be very, very cautious with this, especially as these tech stocks are showing a little bit of weakness. So I think that tomorrow there might actually be a small pullback on SPY to 608 to 610. Then we might try to bounce off of that. So just keep that in mind. That's the most likely possibility. And then watch your levels just to be safe. For the QQQ, we had a high appear around 541. We came down, made a lower high. Now we're going to be watching our 20 EMA over here around this 536 area. There's a very, very good chance that we might end up declining towards it. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. But part of why this might be dipping is because of Nvidia and Meta. So please keep that in mind. So in my view, there's a very, very good chance that, there's a very good chance that we might end up seeing a bit of a dip. So watch that 540 area to see if we break past it. And if we can't, we could be dipping to 536. Might be a small decline before it consolidates as the most likely possibility. For the Russell 2000, we have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. For now, I think this is looking decent, but if we can't get back above 226.5, we're going to be at risk of dipping down to like 225. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a risk of us dipping a little bit lower. So we need to break 226.5. Otherwise, we might pull back to 225. Then we'll see how it goes from there. I think ES is looking bullish. We came very close to the all-time high, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a small decline. First, this might actually decline towards 61.25 before it tries to bounce again. A little pullback to 61.25 will be normal, and then we'll see if we bounce or not from there. For NQ, we're very tight right now. This may also slow down towards the 22,150 area or a little bit below that. So it might be a bit of a slowdown before it tries to bounce again. So we'll see how it goes, but this is what we're looking for, at least thus far. We're consolidating, but there's going to be a risk of us continuing to decline, at least from here. So give this some time. That's going to be very, very important. For Bitcoin, we have to see if we can break past 96,500. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 97,500. If that fails us, we could be tipping back down with the 4 hours looking a bit more bullish. For Nvidia is kind of stuck here. We're looking for this high up here around this 144-ish area. We came down, made a lower high. We'll have to see if we break past this or not. Otherwise, we're going to be at risk of dipping to 136.89 or below. There's a good chance we dip back down to the 20 EMA here, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But we're making lower highs, and there's going to be a risk of us dipping from there. That could drag the QQQ and SPY down just a bit if we do see Nvidia drop. For Tesla, like I said before, I think that we might see a little dip to about 355, then a bounce, and we're going to continue to shuffle in this range. But as time goes on, the setup remains bullish for the inverse head and shoulders. You could even interpret this as like a cup and handle, so it might dip here before it tries to break out higher. We'll give this more time to develop. Apple might see a small dip before a bounce. The reason for that is the PPO is turning here. It's just consolidating. Could see a retest of like 242 before it tries to bounce again. Might be a temporary pullback before we see a nice move back up. For the rest of these, we have Netflix. Netflix will likely continue to push. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to get back up towards this like 150 plus area. And then we'll see how it reacts to that, but look for a little bit more upside. MSTR got a rejection. Not looking the best after we got some bad news. Might be retesting 323 before it turns back down towards 316. Celsius is, it's looking more bullish. If we could try to hold above 25.97, we're looking for an attempt for 27. If we lose this, we could be dipping to 24. My gut tells me that there's going to likely be some kind of like pullback move before it continues to rally. Bullish setup overall. For Supermicro, we got a rejection here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we also dip towards 55. And if 55 does not hold, we're looking for 51 towards the 20 EMA, and then we'll see if we bounce from there. So 55 to 51 could be tested, and we'll see if we bounce in that range. Palantir is looking very bearish, got a massive rejection so far. I think we easily get back down to 100 tomorrow. That's where the support is. Then we have this gap to fill. So if we do dip towards that like 100 area, we'll see if we get a temporary bounce before it continues to dump. But there's more downside potential in this nonetheless, most definitely. For Rivian, we have earnings tomorrow. It might decline to about 13.71 to 13.3 before earnings, a little bit of a dip before it tries to bounce. Look for some downside tomorrow morning, then we'll see how our earnings affects this tomorrow. So far, it's looking like it's going to be retesting 15.73 or below. The mid to lower 15s could be coming before it tries to bounce. AMD is technically on an uptrend, but I'm sorry, we're on a bigger downtrend. It's been uptrending for the short term, but for the overall trend, we're still at resistance. If we could hold above 116, we're looking for a big bounce for the 120 area. If we end up losing 113.5, we're looking for a dip back down to about 111. So we'll give this some time to develop. ARM is looking a bit more bearish, looking for 150s or potential targets. Coin got a big rejection here. We need to get back above 271. Otherwise, we favor 255. So there's going to be a risk of that dipping as well. On Amazon, we're making lower highs, getting rejections off our overall trend line. We need to break this and get back above 230 to be bullish. Otherwise, we could push and just continue to downtrend towards 222. What else is not so good about the markets is not just Amazon declining, but also Meta. Meta got a big rejection. We need to get back above 708s to bounce. If we can't do that, we're watching 700. Otherwise, it's going to be favoring downside for 695, then 690. Those are very probable targets, so I do anticipate we might be dipping lower. Microsoft does look a bit more bullish, looking for 416 as a target to slowly push higher. And Google might be retesting 187 and 189 if that breaks, so there is potential in this. I'm going to skip over to DJT, which looks bearish. 27.5 is likely coming, so expect more downside. The VIX is very flat right now, not really doing a whole lot. The 10-year and the dollar are both kind of flat, but the dollar does look a bit more bullish. So my view of the market is simple. We might see a small decline tomorrow with like Meta and then other stocks like Nvidia slowing down. Tesla could retest 255 then bounce, or 355 and then bounce, excuse me. And then overall, even if it does see a small decline, we still have a potential cup and handle like structure, so it could dip and then continue to break out from here. As long as we don't lose 348, we're still technically in a range. As long as we don't break past 363, we're kind of stuck in that range. If we break 363 soon, though, we will be breaking out higher. Might see a decline first before it breaks out higher is the most likely possibility, so keep that in mind. Anyways, that's it for this video. I need to make this one nice, short, sweet, and simple. I'll see if I see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be back in the morning, but then in the afternoon, I do have the funeral to attend, so I will not be available. So I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll be back with another upload most likely tomorrow morning, hopefully. So thank you for listening, and peace out.